It's got to be real.
Be real. Be real. Okay guys, so this is our post fight for Chris Eubank Jr. versus Gary Spike O'Sullivan. Chris Eubank Jr. stops, Spike O'Sullivan and his corner chose to retire him, I believe, in the 7th round. Now, Chris Eubank Jr. looked absolutely sensational when throwing combinations. He managed to start working behind the jab, patting him, moving, ducking, weaving. There were a few moments of worry. He got caught with a few shots that I don't think he needed to get caught with. I think he's better than that. I think his defense was showing improvement. I don't know whether that's to do with Adam Booth necessarily, because the stuff he was doing in regards to his defense, getting down, using his shoulder to block and parry and move, that sort of thing. I saw that in the Dmitry Shudinov fight. Obviously, the Tony Jetta fight, we didn't see anything at all. We just saw him blow out a guy who shouldn't have even been in the ring with him. Sorry, pardon me. Apart from that, so far it's been fight of the night. Obviously, we've got to look ahead to Joshua White. But right now, up until this fight, it had been the night of upsets. In the first or second round, he caught Eubank, his legs went, and he almost fell forward. I did think to myself, bloody hell, what is happening to Eddie Hearn's fighters tonight? They're all losing it. Kevin Mitchell got absolutely outboxed and dominated and battered in his fight. So I thought, oh my God, please Eubank. And I'm a massive Eubank supporter. I truly believe eventually, with time, he's very young. And still, he's relatively inexperienced. I mean, he's not a guy who I think is ready for world level. I don't believe that at all. But I think with time, he'll be special. He has the looks. He has something about him. There is a certain level of charisma there. Whether that's through his father or himself, I'm not too sure. But in time, we will see. But what I will say is that was an absolutely amazing performance in terms of his hand speed, his combinations. Most shots were landing flush. Of course, people are going to say, oh yeah, but this guy was tailor-made, he came forward, this, that. Yes, true. Similar to Dmitry Shudinov to an extent. But it is what it is, isn't it? Ultimately, beforehand, everyone was saying, oh, Spike's knock him out, he's too strong, this, that. It was kind of a 50-50. Some people felt like it was a mismatch. Dan Raphael said on ESPN journalist Dan Raphael said on Twitter, this is a mismatch and it's showing. No, it wasn't a mismatch to begin with. I think it was a decent fight. It's a fight that garnered the public's interest. And I turned and said to my dad, I said, look, this is what is going to endear Chris Eubank Jr. to the fans. Getting into fights like this and showing that, you know what, I've got heart, I've got skills, I've got speed. The combinations, the way he fights, the slick moves. His footwork isn't on point. He does stupid things. This whole machismo, trying to stand there and look from the corner of your eye. There's no point. There's no need. Doing that on world level will get you knocked the fuck out. Pardon my French, but that is the reality. But what I will say, I'm genuinely a bit baffled that they pulled him out, Pascal Collins. But you know what? Fair play. They knew there was no way he was going to win the fight unless he got a knockout, and I think it was getting less and less likely because Chris started working behind the jab and just defending because he knew he was ahead, and there's nothing wrong with that either. If you know you're winning the fight and you feel comfortable enough to take rounds off and move back and just jab and pop and move and hold, there's no point in even continuing the fight in that sense. So Gary put up a great fight, great class between the fighters afterwards. They shook hands, they hugged. Gary apologised, and he's a very classy guy, man. I've got to say, Spike is a top guy. I've met him and interviewed him a few weeks back. Lovely, very genuine, kind guy. I wish him all the best, and same to Chris. So where do they go from here? Gary will obviously have to go back to obscurity to an extent and knock out a few people in Ireland or Boston again, as he has done recently. And we'll see where we go from there. I'm sure he'll work his way into a decent position. I don't know if he'll ever reach world honours, though. That's the thing. He fights for his family, and that's about it. But fair play to him. Put food on the table and provide for the family, and I respect that. Chris Eubank Jr., however, now is the #1 ranked WBA middleweight, who obviously he's not going to go on to fight Golovkin. He's a super middleweight champion, WBA super world middleweight champion, meaning they have no mandatories. So the guy that faced Chris Eubank Jr. as a mandatory is Danny Jacobs, who just horrifically battered and destroyed and embarrassed Peter Quillin in the first round of their fight last week in the Battle of Brooklyn on December 5th on Showtime. Is Chris Eubank ready for Danny Jacobs? Don't think so. If that fight happens in April, March, May, it's going to be a very tough fight for Chris. If he fights the way he fights now, maybe he can hurt Danny Jacobs, but the fact is, Spike was hurt, but he wasn't getting dropped, he wasn't showing signs of stopping. That's the issue I have here. Chris Eubank Jr., I said on Twitter, on one of my tweets actually, if you follow me on Twitter, you'd have seen it. Chris Eubank Jr. is more of an accumulation puncher. He'll hit you with 4 or 5 punches flush, and you'll feel them. Spike is a one-punch knockout artist. Same with Danny Jacobs. I don't think Danny Jacobs is a one-punch knockout artist, not by any means. I think he hits hits a lot harder than Eubank, though. I will say that he's more skillful and he's got obviously a deeper resume and more pedigree. Obviously, with the win over Peter Quillen, you can't really compare that to anything that Eubank has done. But again, Eubank is very young. He's 26 years old, man. There's only one other fighter out there who, at that young, ripe age, is building momentum and eventually will challenge for a world title, and that's Canelo. Canelo's already a world champion at the age of 25. And that's not me comparing Canelo and saying, oh, he needs to fight Eubank, they're both young. No, I can't compare the resumes because they're nothing alike. But I have to say, Eubank Jr. is the future. He's the next generation. I genuinely believe in the guy, and I'm a massive fan. And I'm a fan of Chris Eubank Sr. as well, you know. Lovely guys. I've been to the gym on 2 or 3 occasions now. They're very welcoming, good guys, and I've got a lot of respect for them, and they've treated me very well. So best of luck to them in their World Championship endeavour and challenge next year. Obviously now off to Joshua White, so thank you for your time. Please like, share and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at SherryAbbasi93 and our channel's Twitter at BeRealTV. Thank you very much.
Got to believe.